I'm just going to the kitchen to get some food. Then I'm going to tell you a story that will make your balls shrink to the size of raisins.
Art 101 with Mr. Burgher.
Well, hello friends, welcome back to another episode of Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher, a professional artist attempting to bring you the best in art historical content.
I eat success for breakfast!
As I always explain to you, I like the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the comments. Keep it coming, I appreciate it very greatly.
Get creative, do whatever you want.
Now in this little video, I want to give you a little bit of information about some of the early societies that really influenced things today.
This time once again to raise the intellectual level of our program.
Alright, let's see what we can do here. Cities are the basic prerequisite for a civilization. As society began to evolve, the artistic life of the civilization has been most densely populated in their largest cities. Now, why did these cities grow? They grow because of three basic factors. One, they have access to food. Number two, they have access to work they can do. And maybe most importantly, the creation of bronze by smelting lead and tin together. In this new Bronze Age, it's possible to make new types of weapons, creating larger empires, and also creating larger cities. The bigger the city, the more potential there is for art creation. We see a huge boom of this in Mesopotamia, in an area known as the Fertile Crescent, which is the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. There are lots of kingdoms and wealth and other innovations going on in this area, but I want to focus on four of these major kingdoms or groups that start to develop. I want to briefly look at Sumer, Akkad, Babylonia, and Assyria. Sumer was one of the first truly developed societies. This is a region that is referred to in the Bible because of its fertile soil that was perfect for raising crops, sheep, goats, and other livestock. The importance of agriculture would lead to their development of the wheel and plow. In art, they would produce great examples of marble carving, hammered gold, and other forms of three-dimensional art, including ceramics, as clay was very abundant in the river valley. This would also be the birthplace of cuneiform writing. This is the earliest system of writing in the late 4000s BCE. It was replaced by Aramaic in about 900 BC. Writing was a necessity that farmers needed to use to create records of produce, livestock, and accounts of trade. Eventually, it would be used to write stories and allow societies to write their history, and thus move prehistoric societies into historic ones. Most historians regard written language and bronze smelting as the key differences between prehistoric and historic societies.
Language this is.
Mesopotamia's most significant form of architecture was the ziggurat. This terrace or stair-step pyramid stood at the center of the city and would serve both as a religious and governmental center. Although not the earliest example, the ziggurat in Ur is the best preserved example. This temple reflects Sumerians' knowledge of mathematics and follows the idea of the golden ratio very closely. This was developed by the Sumerians, but it would definitely have an impact on the Babylonians and Assyrians, who both also built ziggurats. And thus, this society from Mesopotamia would impact their neighbors in Egypt. Akkad emerges as the region's first empire. The Akkadian king rules over the region just north of Sumer, and would have had Sumer under his authority. Akkad had 5 rulers over its 142-year period of authority in the region. The last great ruler of the region was Naram-Sin. Naram-Sin's ability to take over the region was recorded on a stele, or stone tablet, with a low-relief carving on the surface. The stele of Naram-Sin, sometimes called the Victory Stele, in this case is one that commemorates Naram-Sin leading his troops into enemy territory where he is wearing a horned headdress, carrying his bow with dead enemies at his feet. The pink limestone has carvings that celebrate a victory over the Lullaby people around 2200 BC. This low-relief carving technique would be borrowed from the Syrians and advanced by the Akkadians and used by other groups around the region. If one examines the Mesopotamian style of portraiture, the head of an Akkadian ruler portrays an absolute monarch. This is a sophistication that comes with a long tradition of craftsmanship. The elaborate hairstyle and rhythmic patterns show a transfer of ideas to the Akkadians from the Sumerians. In a blend of Sumerian and Akkadian cultures, the Babylonian culture was certainly an advanced one. With an interest in education, Babylon excelled in mathematics, literature, agriculture, science, and art. The artistic style of Babylon was certainly in harmony with the rest of Mesopotamia. After examining some of the portrait works by the Sumerians and Akkadians, looking at the law code of Hammurabi gives us a perfect look at the Babylonian style and how they all fit together. At the top of this stone relief, or stele, as we've mentioned, we can see an engraved depiction of Hammurabi praying to Shemesh, the god of the sun and justice, who is sitting on his throne handing a scepter and ring to Hammurabi. The legend says that Hammurabi received the code from Shemesh in his first year of reign. There are 16 columns of text on the front and 28 columns of text on the back side of the stele. This is the foundation for law that would help the Babylonian society create the stability that would allow the culture to prosper, especially with a very vast and diverse makeup of people. The Law Code of Hammurabi is the longest surviving text from this time period. Its 282 common laws address a variety of topics. In each one of these societies we see a style of relief sculpture. This would be mastered by the Assyrians. In about 1500 BC, the Assyrians began to develop an art form that would be practiced until about 612 BC. This art was called polychrome carved stone relief. Basically it was low relief sculpture where the volume is turned up. One of my favorites is Ashur-Asarful II Killing Lions, which depicts the king taking aim at a lion from the back of his chariot. The reason I like this particular work is its use of overlapped images that suggest a degree of depth. Many times these low relief carvings look a little flat, and this one really pops out to me. I want to add in one quick bonus for you, and that's a really quick look at the Persians. This is a very nomadic people that would eventually settle in West Africa. They were pretty low-key until they decided to conquer the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Jews, the Greeks, and many other subgroups. And this is kind of the beginning of the Persian Empire. Many of us have probably heard of Xerxes and remember him from the movie 300.
Yours is a fascinating tribe.
And he was eventually defeated by Alexander the Great in 331 BC. Now let's focus on some art. The Persians are most famous for their woven silk and the creation of textiles.
That rug really tied the room together, did it not?
Many of these would contain really cool images of animals, plants, and traditional storylines.
And of course, I still get to keep the rug.
But their knowledge and skill in textile design went far beyond carpets and furniture. They also used these textiles for their own clothing. Persian aristocrats had very high standards for their clothing, and their fabric was by far the best in the entire world. Oh man, I love that story.
Embassies in Kenya and Tanzania